So long as like Alchemy.
All right. Those of you, I know the season's picking up, preseason and all these things. And, I'm not keeping the same format as I did last year. I know a majority of you that tune into this channel are Warriors fans. And I'm going to cover the Warriors. They're such a topic, but I have to break off and cover more of the league. And so I'm going to try to bring you a more unique breakdown. It's not going to be those. I will have my extended Warrior highlights on my Patreon all season long. It takes, what's the NBA season? 10 months, 11 months if you're a Warriors fan, who knows? $1 a month, $10 a month, you're going to get every Warrior game. I already have the first preseason game broken down. It's like 12 minutes, everything I've seen. I put hundreds of hours into the Patreon, so consider that if you want a true Warriors breakdown. These videos are going to be, I'm going to talk about the Warriors, but I want to talk about the rest of the league, everything that's happening over, everything that's happened over the previous like 48 hours or so, and that allows me to keep things exciting and let me talk about things I want to talk about, confining myself to the Warriors. As we know, the regular season, it can be mundane, can be a little bit boring, right? Considering what their ultimate goal is. So over the weekend, the preseason started. Obviously, we saw the Warriors. We saw LeBron's debut. We saw DeMar, right? We saw a little bit of Kawhi. And so I'm going to talk about these things, man. I'm going to talk about these things. Let's talk about the Lakers first, right? Because that's probably the biggest storyline. They went out to San Diego and played the Denver Nuggets. And the first thing that came to my mind was, I don't know what was tighter, LeBron's jersey or the spacing on the floor with Rondo and McGee starting the game. Now, I think that their lineup is going to be dynamic. Obviously, Lonzo is still sitting out with the knee surgery. Questionable how late in the summer that he had the knee surgery. I guess him and Russ, have the same train of thought. But either way, so that was my first thing. You saw Rondo hanging on the, in that ghost position on the baseline, right? You see D Wade, that type of position on the spacing. And then JaVale, we know he's a vertical spacer, and JaVale had a monster game. What do you have, like 17 points, and they were feeding him the ball. And Laker fans, I will caution this. I'm not saying it's impossible for him to sustain this. I'm just saying I wouldn't bet my money on JaVale sustaining this output. We know he's asthmatic, and he obviously maintains that. But just the energy level and the amount of energy that JaVale brings and plays with, I don't know if it's sustainable for him to play heavy minutes and play like that. He's a player who plays in bursts. So I think that JaVale will play well, and you'll get that output from him. I just don't think you can expect him to start and play heavy minutes like that. He never has throughout his career. There's no reason why I think he could do it at this point, right? But, what struck me about the Lakers was how fast they were getting up and down the floor. And you could tell LeBron was cruising and was chilling. And the first thing that came to my mind was like, he's going to develop the Kevin Love outlet pass. Because you got Kuzma, Ingram, Hart, all these dudes, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, sprinting the floor. And it's by design. Walton wants to get out and use the young legs. So LeBron, look for him to just develop some really sick long outlet passes, some skipping Jason Kidd bounce passes as this season goes on. But my second thought was, he's going to have to play less minutes. If they're playing at this pace, there's just no way that LeBron can play, the amount of minutes we've seen the previous years in Cleveland. And I also think that they know that, right? So, but the speed was there. I think Kuzma looked better than Ingram. Ingram came out the gates looking good, but there's something about Ingram. He gets so low, he dips low in his hips, and I think it kind of robs him of his balance and his power just off his build. Right? If you look at KD and some of the guys similar built, they're not going to dip super low down into their hips because they're just not strong there. And so Ingram, he still seems a little off balance, but it was intriguing. And Kuzma, you can tell that he's more athletic. You can tell he's stronger and more athletic, and he's just such a natural strider and glider up and down the court, pulling the trigger. I just think that Rondo, you peep Rondo already trolling. Rondo, and one thing I noticed, what's going to be so interesting is that I saw Rondo barking, I believe, at LeBron on a blown backdoor assignment on a rotation. And he's there to keep everybody accountable, and it'll be interesting. You saw LeBron sitting way at the end of the bench, and the question to me is going to be, is LeBron going to empower Luke? Right? Because if LeBron, you saw him, he went back in the second quarter, it was unplanned. You saw Luke talking to him, and I was like, man, if he's going to kind of punk Luke and make demands and tell Luke what to do, all these young Luke's going to lose the team. It's that simple because everybody's watching LeBron and how he acts. And we know he's a professional, but we know if there's one area you question his professionalism, it's how he deals with his head coaches. Luke Walton being in the same draft as him, right? So that's something to keep an eye on early on, Laker fans, is LeBron going to give Luke the proper respect so he can control the rest of the team, right? But ultimately, I think what the question is going to be is, can Lonzo Ball stretch the floor? Because I know Rondo is starting now and all this, but down the stretch in the playoffs, in important games, there's not enough spacing on the floor unless Kuzma. Are they going to play Kuzma at the 5? That's a possibility, but you need spacing from your point guard on the floor in today's NBA. And if we know Lonzo's tweaked the shot, and if he can stand and space the floor and finish games, because his defense is already there, it's already, serviceable. Then I think that this team, that's going to be the big question. But overall, I liked it. It was fun to see him debut the space and the pace that Luke has implemented. I'll talk Warriors. Don't worry. What are we, 6 minutes into the video? And I'm gonna refine these videos as I go on. This is kind of my preseason as well. I'm gonna tune it and figure out what highlights I want to put in there and all that stuff. So stick with me, man. It's gonna get better and better. You're going to get original NBA content, not regurgitated bullshit from young boys, right? I put in the work. Y'all notice. Anyway, enough of the shade. That wasn't really shade, was it? Celtics, Charlotte. Gordon Hayward's return. And boy, he looked big. Not in a good way. He looked slow and husky. And I guess that's expected, right? He's still, I don't know, man. It's been a year almost, right? So I thought maybe he'd be a little leaner. When you have an injury like that, a lower body injury, you want to remain light. And so he looked a little heavy and a little slow. You could tell he doesn't have his confidence yet. But what struck me with Boston was, man, they're taking a lot of threes. I think, how every year the 3-point records just go out the window. There's just more and more being shot. You saw Bane shooting them. Everybody, it looks like Brad has green-lighted the whole roster to shoot the 3 ball. And that's just the way the league is headed. The other thing that came to my mind was the dynamic of Terry Rozier and Kyrie Irving. Rozier is a superior defender. He's the superior defender. There's no doubt about it. And he's more than serviceable offensively. Now, Kyrie is probably the best isolation one-on-one player in the league when he's right? So there's no arguing with that. But I just foresee there's going to be games where Stevens may roll with Rozier rather than Kyrie. When you want a defensive lineup out there, let's say they're trying to protect a 10-point lead on the road and you're going up against another elite guard, Rozier is schematically as a coach, Rozier is the player you'd want out there because he's the stopper. And so keep a tab on Boston and Rozier perhaps stealing some of Kyrie's late minutes. And then all of a sudden you're going to hear the narrative of, oh, Kyrie wants out, man. He ain't finishing games. Kyrie ain't finishing games. So that's going to be a hard dynamic for Brad to deal with because I think there'll be times as a coach, he wants Rozier out there, but does he have to balance the act of keeping Kyrie happy? Because we all know how fickle he is with this situation. The Charlotte Hornets, man, Tony Parker and Nicholas Batum out there. You know what I was thinking, man? I feel sorry for Kemba Walker. Kemba Walker is really getting like the Barry Sanders treatment, And don't get me wrong, Barry Sanders was a better running back than Kemba is point guard. But what he is he's a spectacular young point guard in the prime of his career, and it's kind of getting ruined by, you want to talk about a weird-ass roster, Michael Jordan, Frank Kaminsky. Who else do they have there, man? Michael Kidd-Gilchrist. Why sign Tony Parker? That roster looks rough now. Miles Bridges, the Michigan State product, had the hammer home. I think they overreacted on that. Let's calm down. I can do that dunk right now at 35 years old, like a put back dunk. I mean, he really sold it, but come on now, calm down. I like his body. I like his aggression. I think he may have to adjust to the NBA range 3. I think he's a lefty, right? Is he a lefty? It looks like the extra few feet for the NBA range 3. It looks like a struggle for him to get it off. It doesn't look effortless. Okay. But that roster is rough, man. And I want to talk about one more rookie. I didn't see the entirety of that game, but Luka walked out like strutting right now. And you want to talk about a natural looking shot in a 3. That's the difference. So I'm talking about Miles Bridges, how the 3, it looks like it takes a lot of effort, right, to get out. Luka has the quick flick, man. And you can see the swagger right away. Now I want to you say, oh, look at this debut. He was playing against the mighty fucking Ducks, man. He was playing against the mighty Ducks. So let's calm down with that. He looks like he needs to watch his diet. He looks a little soft, but you saw the handle and the wiggle. I just caution that I want to see him do that against NBA caliber athletes. But I will say the shot looked wet. The shot looked wet as hell. So that was impressive. All right, y'all. And what I forgot to talk about the Dubs. How dare you, Alk? Okay, so their preseason debut against the Minnesota Timberwolves. What was it, Saturday night? Minnesota, obviously, with no Jimmy Butler. One thing I will say about Minnesota is, before I get into the Warriors, is one, Derrick Rose is going to figure it out, man. And I know they played him at the 2 in place of Jimmy Butler, but the jumper has gotten a lot better, and he's still very effective. He's still very irky-jerky. If he can stay healthy, man, I like D. Rose as a third combo guard. He just still has the pop, man, and I'm glad to see that, man, because he's shown how much he loves the game. A lot of lesser dudes, guys that didn't love the game as much, would have given up with his injury history. And the Timberwolves, Tibbs, the game has passed Tibbs by. I know I said I was going to talk the Warriors. Here I am talking Timberwolves, but the game's passed Tibbs by, man. These young dudes ain't having fun. Obviously, the mutiny from Jimmy Butler, right? But he's just crushing the fun. I have no doubt that A. Wiggs is, he ain't the sharpest tool in the shed. And I know Towns ain't the hardest dude on the block. This is easy to see. I'm not saying that, but it's not helping that Tibbs squeezes every little bit of fun out of everything. Even in the preseason, he's barking and having them hard foul. I see you, Anthony Tolliver, trying to roll up on your boy Steph's ankle, man. You bet you're lucky you made it out to town, man. You're lucky you made it out to town, right?
Okay,
but that bug that Tolliver rolled up on Curry's ankle. He was fine. Let's talk Dubs. So there's 2 main storylines coming out of the preseason, starting with the preseason for the Warriors, is the center by committee position. Obviously, Boogie, probably not ready till around Christmas time. He was there. But they're going to have a 3-headed monster of Damian Jones, Kevon Looney, and Jordan Bell. Now, as far as the pecking order goes, it hasn't been announced, but you have to imagine that Kerr favors Looney, then Bell, then Damian Jones, who's complete. Damian Jones has 2 rings and has done less than a Kardashian. Right? Like he has done nothing for these rings. And I ain't trying. It is what it is, man. But he gets the start. They're going to reverse pecking order it just to give these guys opportunities in the preseason. And Damian Jones is kind of like, he has split personalities on the court in the sense of defensively, he's very physical and active. And then offensively, he's soft and skittish. And so that's a tough thing, but they force-fed him the ball early on. And one thing that you notice, he has all the physical tools, but he loves to load up off 2 feet and elevate, and it takes way too long. You're already 7 foot, dude. You don't need to hold turbo down and launch up into the air for everything. You can just quick jump and still finish above the rim. You have those attributes. I think he needs to figure that out. But the core 4, the starters looked really good, but I think the real story was we got April Iguodala in October. Did you see the lob? Did you see the spike, the quick hands? And I had read that he'd missed some practices with sore ribs. To me, in my mind, that was like, yo, this dude's been on the golf course all summer, tweaked the rib cage. This dude, we ain't gonna see him till February. You know what I'm saying? And so that was this pleasant surprise. And I really like the mantra that Kerr, I think this is the season that Kerr's really going to earn his money, and it's going to pay dividends to have Steve Kerr, because you could make the argument that any decent coach is going to win championships with this roster. I'm not opposed to that argument, but there's a lot more. The devil's in the details, and you just never know. There's so many little things that tip the scale. But I think the mantra that Kerr and the organization has come up this year, where let's stop and smell the roses. Let's just have fun, because last year there was all the pressure and expectations, and they felt it and they wore it. And so the idea of just going out and enjoying the ride, and it showed in the first preseason game, there was a calming, confident swagger to the guys, and they looked good, right? The second unit, Jonas Jerebko, Jacob Evans the third, right? And then the second storyline of this preseason is Patrick McCaw, it appears, doesn't want any part of this Warriors team. And at first I was a little salty, and I was like,
That's ignorant.
What are you doing, man? Appreciate what you got, but he wants to get paid. And he's not going to get the opportunity to get paid playing on this roster. So I don't think he's going to come back. That leaves an open roster spot. Now they've got 2-way players. They brought in Daniel House Jr., who's an athletic wing, Tyler Ulis, the little water bug guard from the Suns, right? As well as a few other guards, Kendrick Nunn, athletic lefty. And then obviously Jacob Evans, the draft pick, who I think is probably going to take McCaw's minutes and spots. They expect him to play a little bit. And I have to say, he looked a lot better than he did in Summer League. I know he had a hurt toe or something like that, but he appears to shoot much better off the bounce, which is not something he's going to get a lot of opportunity with on this team. He's going to have to get comfortable catch and shoot. He has a low release, which is interesting to see, but defensively, I was impressed. You see the awareness, you see the strength, and he looks like a grown man, right? You know, you saw Pat McCaw, and this isn't a knock on him, but some of these rookies, right, that are 19, 20 years old, you can see their deer in headlights. And Evans looks like he belongs. He looks like a grown-ass man, and that was by design. What does Draymond say? We want 16 game players, right? Evans is a specialty player. He's not a guy they want to develop. He should be ready to come in and contribute for bits and portions of the season right away. Now, I have one major thing that you guys need to listen to about this, and I spoke this on my Patreon this year. I don't know how many of you have them. The KD 11s. The KD 11s. Now, as a basketball player, I can put on a pair of shoes and I can move a little bit and go, hell no, I can't wear these. Can't do it. And everybody has a different foot, right? Everybody has different needs as an athlete. And that's what I did with the Durants when they came out, I think in mid-June or July. And there's just no support. Now, Kevin Durant, we know he has a documented history of foot surgery. These shoes are designed for Kevin Durant. Have you ever seen KD's foot? Right? So not many people should be wearing a shoe that's designed for Kevin Durant because he has very specific needs, and let's face it, he's a freak of nature. But the problem is you've got 4 or 5 Warriors wearing these Durants, and they just give you no lockdown, no lateral support, not the lateral support you would want in a basketball shoe. Jonas Jerebko, in the first 2 minutes of his Warrior debut, rolled the ankle. Now, he stayed out there. He's a tough dude, but he looked slow, man. His release looked slow. It was a little bit troubling. If we have another Caspi situation on our hands, man, that will hurt because we know the bench isn't. There's more questions with the bench this season. But Quinn Cook was wearing them. Damian Jones was wearing them. KD was wearing them. I think even the rookie Evans was wearing them. And I'm right now, mark this down. Your boy Alchemy is telling you these dudes need to get out of these KD 11s. These are going to be ankle rollers all year long. And I almost thought like, yo, is LeBron low-key designing the 11s to sabotage the Warriors? That's the only way he can get at the dubs, right? Make the KDs fucked up and then have all the Warriors wear them. No, I'm joking, but I'm just saying, mark it right down, right? It is October 1st, and I'm telling you, don't fucking play in the KD 11s, man. It's problematic. I just hope KD, I assume they're good for KD. We already know he wears his shoes hella loose. He's a different type of dude. He's not concerned with ankle rolling. KD's not. He has elastic ankles. He's concerned with the cushioning for his feet, Rick, his surgically repaired feet. Most guys, they need ankle support, and that's not what those shoes are going to provide. So that's my last little thing about the Warriors, the preseason. They only play 4 games. We get to see them against the Lakers. Again, if you want the full extensive breakdown, you know where to find that as well. Other news that may have missed you is Markkanen for the Bulls. Is it a dislocated right elbow? Either way, his elbow of his shooting arm has some sort of spraying dislocation where he's out like a bunch of time. That's devastating for a young shooter like that. I hate to hear that news. Also, Jahlil Okafor was wheeled off on his ankle for the Pelicans in their preseason debut. I know that dude has put in a ton of work to try to remain in the league, so I hate to hear that, man. You want this preseason. They've shortened the preseason to avoid these type of things. NFL, pay attention, but, you know, there's still going to be that. And then I'm going to leave you with Dwayne Wade. What in the fuck are you doing? What?
That's ignorant.
What are you doing? Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this quick roundup. I'll come at you every probably 48 hours or so with around the league stuff. If you want to hear me talk about something, a take, hit me with the Hey Alchemy. Hit that like, share, and subscribe. I'm out, y'all.
I've been winning so long, it's like alchemy.